All right, call the meeting to order. Commissioner Lee, please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Next on our agenda is to approve our agenda.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Denner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This time we'll open the meeting up for any public comment. If anyone wishes to address the commission this morning. And before any comments are made, if everybody, make sure you sign in over here so we know you're here. So, morning, Paul.
Great. Comment on something from your last meeting.
You bet.
I wasn't physically able at that time to be here, or didn't read it, didn't see it, but I was kind of appointed rumbler of our township. We're in Ordway Township, and last week you approved a situation, a lease agreement with Game Fish and Parks. Yeah.
Yes.
We just got rid of a headache like that. We worked 5 years to get rid of that thing. The Brown County Sheriff's Office couldn't control it, Game and Fish couldn't control it, and we fought it for about 5 years, and we finally got all of us together, and we hired private legal representation, and we got it done. Spent a pile of money. We got the shooters, the drug dealers, the drinkers, the guzzlers out of our neighborhood, and now we'll probably have it back. And if these people are gonna do this, you need to hold their feet to the fire that the Brown County Sheriff's Office and not that they're not doing their job, but they all need to get their job and be there every day to watch these people, if you're gonna have a public shooting area in the township, because they don't do shit. Apologize for the words, but we put up with this thing for about 5 years, we fought it, we finally got it done. The road is good, everything's been better and better and better, and now it looks like we're gonna have it back. So we're just scared of that.
Okay.
And, been known about it, we've been here, but it wasn't very well advertised that what was coming up, so I'm just a little sad on that aspect too.
Okay.
But this law enforcement, you gotta have them on the sticks, unless you all wanna get an email at 12 o'clock when they're out there sighting in their night vision rifles at 1, 2 in the morning. And that's what they do. So, it's just one of those things, we put up with it for, but then I've also had other complaints from customers say, leave them alone. Why? We don't want them back. That people from Amston Lake, Mina, Richmond, we don't want them back. We don't want that giant pile of beer bottles and cans in our road ditches anymore. Just leave them there. We don't want them back. So, I don't know. Like I told one gentleman this morning, if we went back to a 50-hour work week, we probably wouldn't have that trouble.
All right.
But that'd be kind of impossible, so.
Okay.
Well, thank you for listening to me. I just, like I said, just a designated rumbler for today.
Okay. Thank you.
But keep everybody's feet to the fire.
You bet. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else wish to address the commission this morning? Julie?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Julie Johnson, I just wanted to thank you for allowing this conversation about the Richmond Lake Dam today, and thank the Commissioner in advance for being with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. All right, next on the agenda, Brock Greenfield, South Dakota Commissioner of School and Public Lands, with an update on the Richmond Dam project. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. Would you like me to?
Come up.
Absolutely.
There you go.
You get the hot seat.
The hot seat, you bet.
Appreciate you coming in and
Yeah.
providing this information.
Yes, it's my pleasure. To say that this has been a long and winding road is an understatement, but I really do appreciate the invitation to be here. I know there have been questions about the timeline. Before I delve into that, I'll just tee it up by saying, when this whole project started, as many of you know, it was supposed to be a spillway-only replacement project, and over time, the engineers discovered that the cutoff wall, so to speak, was in really bad shape, and it needed to be a broader project. So we shone a light on that in 2024, and 2025, getting what we thought was going to be enough funding in two separate appropriations, but when it came to pass, we got bids. They were opened on March 4th, I believe, and the engineer's estimate was a far cry from what the actual bids were, where they came in. And to the point that two of them were very close. Two of them were within 1%. The other one was an outlier on the high end, but I've heard back from Whitney Kiltz with the Department of Ag and Natural Resources. Somebody from the Office of the State Engineer had gotten a hold of her and asked if she thought that those bids were consistent with the scope of the project, and she said yes, that, in her estimation, given the breadth of what was going to have to be undertaken, they were probably pretty well in line. And then Stacy Waters from the Office of the State Engineer started doing some calling, trying to drill down a little bit more, talking with some of the contractors, and one of them said, you're actually fortunate that this wasn't bid 2 years ago, because you'd have been looking in excess of $40 million probably at that time. We went back to the legislature. The timing was super, I guess it could have been worse. But the reason that everything got pushed back the way it did was because of the federal shutdown back in the fall of the year. We were poised to move forward. We were hoping to let bids in late October and to award a contract in December, and we couldn't get FEMA to give us a thumbs up. They were out of office, so to speak. I got 2 responses to an email that I sent telling me they couldn't respond. They couldn't respond with any substance. So on January 6th, they corresponded with us and told us where we were at with our application and jumping through the hoops, so to speak. On the 8th, they told us they were giving us the conditional go-ahead, that we had been checking the correct boxes and whatnot, and they assumed we would continue to do that. So we were able then to let bids. Fortunately, we had people that knew of the project and they were prepared to offer bids. We had 4 pre-qualified bidders who went through that process, 3 of whom did offer bids. One chose not to when it came to pass. But when the bids were open on March 4th, as I said, they were outside the realm of what we had appropriated up until then. And the Office of the State Engineer said, until you get the funds that are needed, you don't have a project. So we worked very hard over the next few weeks. We went back to, we let bids again, if you will, and opened those the Friday before veto day, so on March 27th. And the low bid came in about $1 million less than what it had been prior. That bidder actually dropped their bid by $1.4 million, as they had gotten some clarification from the engineers as to some of the questions that they had. And one of the other elements was that the Office of the State Engineer had said that some of the construction testing could be done by the state, and that the successful bidder didn't have to do that. So in the end, we were able to come back and ask for approximately $700,000 less than what we would have had to ask for the day that the original bids were open. So by pushing it off and having that bill sit in conference committee for 2.5 weeks between the end of the main run and veto day, we were able to come back and ask for less than we had feared that we'd have to come back for. Whether it's $8.9 million or $8.2 million, you're still talking real money. And I'm very cognizant of that. To that point, I shouldn't start naming names, but I'm going to name a few. I know that you folks were keenly interested, and I thank you for your interest. Julie Johnson, probably, I don't know how many texts and emails I got from her, but she was very plugged in. Mike Bockerney was very plugged in, a whole host of individuals. The association was in touch with me on numerous occasions, and I with them. Probably not as often as I should have been, but still, I was trying to keep them aware of where we were at in the process. I would say that anytime you have curveballs coming your way, you kind of go into a holding pattern, and you don't want to say, hey, we've got a little mini crisis on our hands. You just try to knock it off and move forward. So, but Carl Perry, Al Norstrup, Mark Lopke, Michael Roll, Brandy Schaefbauer, a number of people were very helpful throughout the process in trying to harangue the votes. It wasn't easy because, I had been asked in 2024, so you'll be back, presumably, for more general funds. And I said, well, we're hopeful that we'll get more federal funds than what we're anticipating at this point, but yeah, there's a good chance we'll need to come back for more general funds. 2025, we knew what the lay of the land was as far as what we were going to receive, or conditionally, what the award was from FEMA, $2.9 million as opposed to 7.5 or potentially even 15, which we were hoping for. So we went back and asked for what we thought was the remainder, and thankfully we got that. And at that time I was asked, okay, you got the 6.5 in 2022, and you got 3.1 in general funds plus some federal funds authority in 2024. Now you're back asking for 13 million in general funds. Is that going to be it? And I said, I sure hope so. I didn't know what I now know. An engineer's best guess is just that, it's a guess. So as things played out, I had to go back hat in hand and ask for a lot more money. And thankfully, and I'm going to tell you, on Sunday night I was getting contacts from people that it might not be looking real good. But there were a lot of people who rolled up their sleeves and made the proper contacts. I had my team working on it that next morning, and a lot of legislators were trying to corral the votes with their scope of influence. And so we got the job done with only 3 dissenting votes in the House and 2 in the Senate, and I was extremely grateful for that because Senator Lopke told me at one point it was looking like we might only have 20 votes coming out of the Senate, and we needed 24, and we got that and then some. So very grateful for that. So with that as a little bit of background, and for anybody who's listened, I'm sure that's not new information, but I did want to provide that as background. So last week, in preparation, knowing that I was coming up here, and frankly not knowing what was going on with the others that I had invited, I was getting auto replies that they were out for the remainder of the week and they'd return to work today. So I was hoping against hope that they'd get their emails and say, by golly, yes, we're going to join you on the trip up there, or be available online, but that didn't happen. However, Joshua Deedy from Journey Construction, the Journey Group, doing business as Sioux Falls Construction, Sioux Falls Contractors, SFC. He got back to me on Friday, and he said, currently we are working on getting all the upfront items completed. Contract, permits, water control plans, and working on the schedule. For a rough timeline, we anticipate the following. Hopefully, get a pre-construction meeting schedule for the week of April 27th, later this month. The week of May 6th, mobilization to the site, prep the laydown area, and shut down the roadway. So there's a key element. May 6th, the week of May 6th, they're going to shut down the roadway, presumably. The week of May 13th, start earthwork to draw down the lake, millings of roadway. From there, we will proceed with dirt work to prep the cutoff wall contractor. And then it says they anticipate getting cutoff wall contractor on site early to mid-June. And then he says this will all depend on getting proper permits, approval of water control plans, and other miscellaneous items needed to start up work. And then I did hear back from the Office of the State Engineer they sent emails to me within 2 minutes of one another, and pretty much the same story. So May 6th was the first key date that they were both focused in on. So that gives you a little bit of the background and a little bit of an idea as to what to expect. Key dates going forward, I think it's April 27th of, maybe it's April 16th, I believe it's April 16th of next year. They're supposed to have phase 1 substantially completed. Now, I also want to say there was some confusion about what phase 1 and phase 2 mean. Some of these 2 phases can be going on concurrently. Certain elements of phase 1 have to be completed before they can move on to phase 2. But as I understand, when they get to a certain point, they'll be able to move forward with haste. Well, I shouldn't say it like that, but expeditiously, and hopefully get this thing done in a couple construction seasons. They're going to obviously use this summer as much as they can, and then bookmark it and come back next year. But I think ultimately the end date, as I saw on one deal, is June of 2028. However, it will be substantially completed by 2027, the end of the construction season. I don't know everything that goes into their wrap-up and demobilization, but I was a little surprised when I saw that. I thought maybe they meant June of 2027, but that's the information that I have at my fingertips. So I don't want people to say, hey, it was supposed to be done in 2027. I do have information somewhere in the brains of my email that says June of 2028 is when they will wrap things up once and for all. But that gives you a little bit of the timeline, and I'd be available for questions. I'm sure there are plenty.
So for phase 1 being completed April 16th of next year, are we looking, what would that entail? Is that the road back open? Is that the cutoff wall done? What does that mean for us?
I think that it means that the road will be back open. I'm trying to recall, though, the bridge and the spillway, the point at which that will be wrapped up, so that it can be traveled again. But the cutoff wall is essentially phase 1. I don't want to provide you with bad information, but I know that they plan on getting to a point where the lake can begin to refill sooner than later. And I've had questions about that. I had the engineering firm go back to the drawing board and actually give their worst case scenario and best case scenario. Worst case, given inflows and what have you, is about 247 days.
That's construction days?
No,
or total?
That's total days, calendar days. Best case scenario is 49 days. You know, and that's probably pie in the sky, but I heard people opining that it might be 4 to 8 years, and they said no, that it certainly, you know, barring any craziness, should be less than a calendar year. And as I said, they came up with 247 days as a pretty good guess on the long end of it.
As to when the lake can begin to refill.
Yep.
So next year's snowfall, if we have any, unlike the last few years, assuming there's a good runoff next winter, that will begin to fill up the lake.
Yep. And we've provided, I don't know if anybody here, I know Mike put it out there, we put it on our website. We kind of condensed the 21-page PowerPoint presentation and tried to give people the pertinent information for the questions that were being asked, and I provided a letter as well. That information is contained therein, so that's a pretty good synopsis. If you want to find it, you can go to sdpubliclands.sc.gov, or I think it's on your Facebook page. And I really do, you know, I appreciate Mike, and frankly the Lake Association, who has, you know, his predecessors that have been plugged in, trying to get information and disseminate that information. To put it in perspective, when the legislature heard the first pitch, it was in 2022, when I was still on that side of things, sitting in appropriations, and the projected end date was December of 2023. We hadn't done anything yet, other than drilling some boreholes and almost breaching the dam, and discovering that, ooh, we got issues that need to be addressed. And you know, there's been so much patience, and I'm sure that frustrations have boiled over at times, but ultimately we're here to, you know, share the good news, and that's that we're very well poised at this point. I signed the contract, actually. I got a signature request last night when I got online, and so I executed my signature and sent that off. So that comes from the state office of the state engineer. And to that point too, I want to say I'm not the expert. You know, I'm very much at the mercy of those who are experts. I really appreciated Whitney Kiltz from the Department of Ag and Natural Resources, the Water Rights Program, Stacy Waters and Stephen Palmer from the Office of the State Engineer, Mark Mayer. There have been a lot of people who have, you know, provided me with insights and expertise, so that I can answer some of these tough questions. They come alongside me last week when I was being asked questions in front of the conference committee. Stacy Waters came up and answered some of those questions. I really do appreciate and lean on them for a lot of information. And I'm sorry that you get the B team today, but I've been awash in this for a lot of years. In fact, in 2022, Ryan Bruner, well, in December of 21, Ryan Bruner had a meeting out on the spillway with the association out there, and Mike Corneliuson was there from my office. It wasn't my office at the time. Then Ryan Bruner got that first request drafted and put before the legislature, and between the time that it was first heard in committee and its second committee hearing, he turned the reins over and took a new job. And so Jared Johnson was the interim commissioner, and they both asked me to speak as a proponent of the bill because I had been there. Jared hadn't, at least not in that time frame. And so I spoke as a proponent back then, but again, I was just giving the best information that I had, given my brief interaction and the information that I had, you know. But again, to that point, the association has been very patient and very supportive throughout. I know, I mean, I would be blowing smoke if I said that it's got 100% buy-in and everybody's just thrilled to death with everything that they've heard and everything that they've, you know, I mean, some of the information isn't 100% accurate, but I know that's bound to happen. I've been around the political process for a long time, so I grant a lot of grace in that, and recognize that when you're in the crosshairs, you gotta be accountable, and I'm trying to do that, and have tried to do that throughout. So as I said, it's been a long and winding road, but I'm very thankful for the legislature's indulgence in getting us to the point that we should be able to finish this up in relatively short order.
Okay. Commissioner Weiss?
Just in context, and most everybody pretty well knows and stuff, but you've taken on the responsibility as an elected position, school and public lands, and your primary responsibility is to oversee public property and try and generate some revenues to offset some of the expenses for public school systems in the state of South Dakota. And part of that function is some of those properties have dams on them, which in decades, and we happen to be in that window for several of them, need some pretty significant attention. And your office has been involved not only just with the ones associated with Brown County, but throughout the state, which, as you mentioned, which we recognize is not necessarily something you have the staff or the expertise, so you rely on a lot of people, but you still take that responsibility very seriously, which we appreciate. As an example, we participated together with the dam in Elm Lake several years ago, and that was kind of part and parcel to this. There's those three, that one and Mina, that do impact Brown County as well as several of our neighbors, and have partners, not only the county, but for instance with Elm Lake, the city of Aberdeen, because that's also one of their water sources, and those type of things. And just as background, like I said, it's kind of tilled territory already, but there was testing done on all three of those in our area, and we were fortunate enough to determine that the structural integrity of the dam at Mina and the dam at Elm Lake were structurally sound, whereas unfortunately the one at Richmond was determined not to be structurally sound. And so the spillways needed some attention with significant expenditures, but this one's quite a different creature here. And the folks, as you mentioned, are very understanding of the fact that this is a very critical situation that, if not addressed, could be catastrophic at some point and needs to be addressed, and will be inconvenienced for a period of time up to 2 years. And a significant amount of that will be determined by what winter is like next year. If it's fortunate enough to allow construction to continue almost through the season, it could greatly reduce the amount of time it takes. Or if we have a severe winter, it could impact that more negatively. But they're talking about putting in an impermeable spine down the length of the dam structure itself, as well as restructuring the spillway to make that more efficient. And we happen to have a cooperative arrangement where we have a county road that serves quite a few of those folks there that will impact their ability to be able to access their property, as well as the level of the lake and the ability to be able to use that both as a watershed as well as recreation and personal enjoyment there. I was here 32 years ago when we did 6A on the north side of that lake up there, and that included the north bridge, removing it and realigning it and put a new bridge in, which was a bit of an inconvenience for a couple of years up there as well, but those are the nature of construction projects. So I just personally appreciate your taking responsibility for communicating and help shepherding this project, as well as the many other responsibilities that you have taken on to be responsible as much as possible to the citizens and those people that are going to be impacted, knowing that the ultimate goal here is to make that a safe structure for several generations into the future. But it will be an inconvenience, in trying to minimize that, working with us in our highway department, as well as the legislature and the appropriators, to make sure that we get it done. So in that context, I appreciate it.
And I appreciate those comments, and I haven't mentioned Dirk and Scott and Scott Mayer also. Scott, I did send you an email to reestablish connection, but, you know, we've had some calls with other folks. I know Dwayne, you were on a couple of those, yeah, it's just, it's been pretty, astronomical, the undertaking, you know, and trying to make sure that the right people are involved in the conversations at the right time. And again, I'm sure I've fallen short. But when you find out all of a sudden you've got a minor crisis brewing, you just work to get through that and then say, hey, here's where we're at now, you know. But really do appreciate everything. And to the point that I've been asked, what skin in the game do the locals have? There's a lot of skin in the game. The county has agreed to maintain a detour. The sewer district is going to have to relocate a line. Northwestern has to relocate some high wires and whatnot. I think the REA is due to. There is a lot of inconvenience for a lot of people, and just because we haven't started a GoFundMe page or something like that, or established a method by which Brown County, and you know, I've even had people say, well, what about Aberdeen? Like, Aberdeen has 3.7 billion gallons of water bearing down on a wall, and that, I mean, yes, they don't want to see a dam break and end up flooding the community, and which would result in loss of life, but it's not akin to Elm Lake Dam, where it provides a lot of water for the city, you know. So I've tried to be clear with the legislators. This is a state concern. It's our responsibility. If a bridge went out, we wouldn't say, well, jeepers, we're not going to fully fund it. We're going to wait until we find out what kind of skin in the game the locals are going to have, you know. This is all aging infrastructure, and to that point, we have to take care of it. And so to the extent that the county has stepped up and other entities have stepped up and said, okay, well, we might not love it, but we recognize that we've got to provide some in-kind contributions, what have you. It's very much appreciated, and I hope that we, you know, continue a good, copacetic relationship going forward.
Mr. Ray. I'm gonna skip past the dam to when it's complete to address what I've been seeing as a potential problem. You and I talked at the Richmond Lake meeting last fall about this. I don't mean to be talking behind your back here.
You're fine, go ahead. No, you're good,
Okay.
thank you. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No,
You're
no,
good.
you're not at all. It's just the
Yep.
size.
Yeah, you're good.
But what I'd like to address is the lake refilling and how we're gonna accomplish that. And I asked you last fall, have you looked into the watershed, who has the water rights, who's in control, and how are we going to approach that when the time comes? And your answer at that time was you hadn't looked into it, but you were going to. So I'd like to know where you're at on that.
Well, I spent some time a few days thereafter driving around. I went up to the property 5 miles north where there's a dam, and I had an idea that was a new dam, and I looked at it and I thought, this has been here for a while. Subsequently, I found out that dam was permitted in 1989.
1996.
I was gonna say, I think it was 97 or 96.
Okay, well, so it's been there for upwards of 30 years. So and again, I realized that they went through the proper process to get it permitted and whatnot, so, and then I know that there was another one up further north, I don't know which way I'm pointing, but, that too was a question that you had asked, and I found out that that too had been in place for a while. I don't remember again exactly the length of time, but, we did have our engineers, again, I hate to repeat myself, but the engineers said, given the flows into, they said something about 10 cubic whatever, as opposed to 50. At certain times of the year, there's more flow that comes in. They said it's gonna be less than a year. And I
What's
think
gonna be less than here?
to the refilling of the lake.
Based on what?
Based on the engineer's report, between 49 and 247 days.
Historic watershed, I assume.
Yeah, right. And I've got, like I said, the renderings are out there, that we've put them on our website, the PowerPoint slides, and then they're on the Facebook page, the Richmond Association's Facebook page. And I don't know, that isn't my bailiwick, but I had them push pause and had to do a change order request so that they could get paid for going on this little detour. But they did their best to provide some answers that hopefully will alleviate some of the fears about this long drawn-out process by which it will take, it'll take so long for the lake to refill. And to the point also that once that cutoff wall has been established and the seepage will not continue the way it has been, I think that's going to address a lot of the concern as well. So I think...
I would hope so.
Right.
My concern is this, who has the legal rights to the water north? Who has control of the water rights to the north? And which county authority is in charge of managing those rights? The dam that was built in conjunction with assuring or helping to assure the water flow into Richmond Lake, controlling the sediment, controlling the flooding. That wasn't just built for one purpose, it was built in conjunction with Richmond Lake, if you go and research it. And there's got to be legal documents stating how it's managed, how it's run. By going on the internet, I've been pretty confused as to, who is the owner? I've got the property owner is the owner of the dam. There's information on the internet that way. There's also information that says the county is the owner of the dam. If you look at, ownership is 9/10 possession, I wouldn't think it's the county is the owner of it. But when it was built, the management of the flow was given to a county authority. Dwayne and I have had a conversation about this. And since it was built in '96, that county authority, or that county entity, has been disbanded, and the authority has not been moved to any other county entity. So I think this is a crucial question to be answered now rather than later as to how we're going to go forward. Because I don't think we want to wait till the lake is down 15 feet, and it's 2 years from now, and then try to figure out who has authority over controlling that water coming out of that dam. Because that is, from everything I've read, the choke point of the watershed for Richmond Lake.
I have a question for you. In short,
Okay.
are you suggesting if we did own that water, if whatever you're trying to get at here. Are you suggesting that that be drained in order to fill back Richmond Lake?
It doesn't have to be drained, but
Sure.
there are locks, gates on that dam
Okay.
to control the watershed into Richmond Lake. Who's in control of those?
Sure.
A county authority, was it the drainage district that was disbanded?
Drainage board, yes.
They were given control of that dam, but they're gone. So I don't think we want to go knocking on somebody's door 2 years from now and say, hey, we'd like to go open that dam up. I think we need to have those negotiations and those meetings now, rather than waiting 2 years and then finding out we got a problem and end up in litigation for another couple of years, trying to get the water that was designed to be held for Richmond Lake to Richmond Lake. This is a big thing. This isn't a small issue. And I don't think it's being looked at by anybody. I've looked into it.
I think
I've got supporting paperwork for everything I'm saying with me.
I've done a lot of flying up in that area, just young student pilot burning up time, and we lived at Richmond Lake, and so I've been up there a lot. I've hunted that area. And I'm not negating what you're saying, but I think that is such, when you look at the size of that body of water versus, you know, do you know how many acres that covers?
Yes?
How many?
If you want to take time to look it up.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, because personally, I believe that it's such a negligible amount of water compared to what Richmond Lake is, that I can't imagine that if you would let every drop of water out of that thing, that it would even affect the lake level more than an inch.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
But,
And that's my opinion as well.
But why would it be put in place to control the water level in Richmond Lake, and also for the fishery, for the oxygenation of the water oxygenation coming into the lake?
That's a fair
Why
fact.
was it built for all of that purpose if it's a negligible entity?
For aeration purposes, I can
Yeah,
understand that.
and we've had fish kill at Richmond Lake.
Yeah,
Last year, we had significant fish
Yep.
kill, and the Game Fish and Parks, to put people's mind at rest, put a publication in the newspaper about that the reason for the fish kill, there's no danger. The fish died due to low oxygen level in the lake. The oxygen level in the lake increases by allowing fresh water to come in.
Sure.
So we're not getting fresh water. And there was a lot of rainfall north of Richmond Lake last year. And we didn't get any runoff. Minot Lake ran over the spillway all fall. It's running over the spillway right now. I was just there yesterday. We got about a little over a foot maybe back in the lake.
No, maybe
This-
6 inches.
with
We're
this
down
last-
about
yeah.
3 feet in the last couple of years.
With this last snowfall. And I think we're warm enough now, we probably have, we're past the runoff stage, and we're gonna start soaking in when we get rain and snow.
We're approximately right now down 3 feet, give or take 2.5, 3 feet. Charlie and I went up yesterday, I'm Todd Campbell. We went up yesterday and flew the watershed of Richmond. And the dam he's talking about is a large dam. And there are, when we flew over, there's a control device in that dam. And I agree with Charlie, part of the issue is, I'll answer your question about 47 days to 200 some days. It will only happen if we have a substantial event, period. It won't happen unless we have that. And that's what's got to be clarified. If we have an event like we had, 4 years ago, that was 100 inches of snow, that might fill that, bring it up 10 feet, might. I've been there 60 years. I've seen snow events, I know what goes on. There are other dams and other facilities, that are out there too, that are some larger ones that have been there a while. But besides that, this dam, I think, is someone's got to be controlling this dam, and I think it comes back to the county, because I know we've disbanded the water board, but I think it goes back to the county to decide who will be the entity to control that according to the state law. Is that correct? Yeah, I don't know state laws very much, but Carl, is that correct?
Oh, that's a good question.
State of South Dakota has some really stringent water rights. I do know that compared to other states.
I can't answer the question, but the interesting thing is we're talking about the back end. If we don't talk about the front end, which is what Brock really came to talk about, we won't have the dam there, and the water won't be there. And the Rapid City area had 238 people die, and that was back in '72. This would be 7 times as large as the Rapid City event, and we're going to have major dissolution, and we're going to have a
Carl,
lot
I'm
of
not
people
saying
die.
anything about building the dam.
Okay.
I'm talking about the results after.
Yeah, the results
dam.
afterwards. I agree with
Filling the
you.
lake.
Yep.
I'm not saying anything
And
against the dam.
going back to your point about, I was past president of the association, and don't get me wrong, there are people out there, the conspiracy theory people, that don't see the outcome of what this will actually do. And I know I'm going to be wrong, but probably low, $50 to $100 million of the property out of Richmond Lake valuation. It's probably one of the, when you look at the most substantial valuation in an area, it's probably the highest of anywhere in Brown County except for Aberdeen. Am I correct?
Sounds
Well,
reasonable. I would have to agree.
Yeah. So it's detrimental to us too, and I think the vast majority of people, they all agree. They wish there'd be different ways to get this done, but I was on board originally when we looked at the 5 different options and how to fix this dam. I still choose this one, even though it was god-awful expensive. It's the correct way. It's a permanent fix. And am I PO'd about coming in 30% over bid, the estimated bid? Absolutely. Do I think Banner dropped the ball? Absolutely.
In fairness, it was Bar.
Bar. And I hope we're not using them now.
They have been our engineers.
And that's a conversation you and I will have later. I'm here to tell you right now, I'm glad we got the money. I'm glad it's going. We're going to keep you guys' feet to the fire to make sure this is done properly, efficiently, and the biggest thing that we want is transparency. That's all we're asking, and I think that's the most important thing. And most of the people are in this room. Mike is on the board now. He will be the person that hopefully you guys will be communicating with, so he can communicate with us, because I've had conversations with the board. They don't know anymore what's really going on unless they read in the paper. And that's sad for a $30-some million project. That's coming from the county's got to really be involved, because it's a tax base for the county, a huge tax base for the county. We can't mess with that. It's a safety issue for Aberdeen. And also too, the vast majority of people in this area utilize that lake, and I want to see it be used for generations to come. So we all have a lot of concerns, but we also want to be very transparent. We want this project to start. I dealt with Journey, and that's something you and I will talk about later too, is how did they end up getting this project? That will be interesting to find out. What's their background in doing projects like this? Have they ever done anything like this before? That's a question I'm going to ask you. Who's going to be in charge? And I'm assuming that there'll be a liaison here, and I would like, we have our meeting coming up at the end of this month. We would like another public meeting with not only with the state and the contractor. We'd like the county there, the city there, Game Fish and Parks there. To me, there's a lot of other questions that need to be answered along with this. You know, I've always told people, and I'm a huge proponent of this, I want people, if we're gonna draw the lake down, that's an opportunity. Go in there, dredging, shoreline restoration. I've heard nothing about that. You know, of the help that we can get for it, speeding up permitting, working with local contracts to get that done. You know, the people at Richmond should definitely, that's their part of it, because I've had people ask me about shoreline restoration. Will they be doing that? I'm going like, absolutely not. You have to do that. Well, why do I have it? It's the lake. I go, it's your property. You know, that's part of the deal. We're throwing nothing into this deal. Go ask, you know, people around Mitchell right now what they're spending on a lake. Now, that's a little different because it's in the city. But we are very fortunate, and you've gone through a lot of work to get this done, and I appreciate that. And it's this, there again, the state is quite unique. You go to North Dakota, most of their water in North Dakota is, I think, is federal, if I'm not mistaken. Their dams are controlled by a federal agency. You should see their dams up there. They're beautiful. Dickinson just put in a huge structure. It was put in by, trying to think of who controls the dams.
Corps of Engineers.
Not Corps of Engineers, the other.
BOR.
Oh.
Bureau of Reclamation.
Bureau of Reclamation controls the dams in North Dakota. We don't do that. It gets thrown on you, which you don't have. This is your first dam project that of any substantial size, and I feel bad for you being in a position, because I looked at the bureaucracy and what's happened over the last few years, but you know, when we were involved at the $26 million figure, one of the people from the engineering firm said, this should be more than enough to take care of this project. And here we are going back in and making you scramble at the last minute. These guys, thank goodness we found the extra money. I hate wasting money. I'm a, you know, taxpayers' money is very important to me. But we have the money, that's beside the point. I do believe the consensus, if you ask people out the lake, there'll still be grumblings and they'll still be upset about different things, but they want this project done and they want it done right. Correct, Charlie? Correct, Mike?
Yep. A long answer to what the question was 441 cubic feet, acre feet of water storage. This is
441.
441 feet. It's 438 feet long, and it was built in 1996. It's 25 feet high.
So 440 square acres,
No,
cubic acres?
Acre feet.
Should be like 400, well, Richmond Lake is, to give you an idea, I think Richmond Lake is about 1,000 acres. I don't know how many acres of water
820
there, but
acres.
what's that?
820 acres, Richmond Lake.
Oh, okay. I thought around 1,000, but
And this one,
it's 400, you have
400 feet.
400 acre feet.
Acre feet.
And Richmond is
800 acre feet of water, Richmond.
Yeah, I see.
That's what I'm wondering, is when we say 800 acres, is Richmond Lake 800 acres surface?
Surface.
That's surface,
Yeah.
so that's how
820
deep it is, so
surface.
there's,
So
Gotta be way more.
so that's
Farming
apples,
it,
so we're talking
you would
apples to
farm
oranges when we
800,
say
right,
that one's
correct.
cubic acre
Right.
feet versus acres of
yeah,
surface.
it's not taking consider how many gallons are there, it's just
And
how much surface area.
I just look back to, and I think we all, I've lived out, not that I've been around as long as you guys have, but I've lived out there since I was 15 years old. I own property out there now. So I have skin in this game too, but, I remember, you know, a lot of years where there was no wake zones on that lake, and it was full, and that dam hasn't changed one bit since then.
That was for the years we had substantial rain. I lived out there.
Right, and I did too at the time, but I feel like it's more of a leaking dam problem than what is north of there,
Well,
personally.
and also too, I lived out there when the lake was down 5 feet. I've been out there 60 years.
Yep, and I'm not trying to negate that.
So, to me, it all comes back to one thing. It's what God gives us for water.
Right.
Period. You can say it's gonna fill in 40 days or 4,000 days. It depends how many days we need a substantial event to fill Richmond
Well, I
Lake.
guess going back to what Charlie said, what are you guys proposing that we try to do if we even have the jurisdiction over that water up there? What are you proposing that we try to do about it?
Find out
Flows
who's
are
in
coming
control of
Richmond
running
Lake.
those gates on that dam. What authority it was. The document I've got right here, it states the purpose of that dam. The dam is critical, its critical purpose for watershed. Water management for Richmond Lake, this is the most important function, but controlling the overflow from Dry Lake, the north basin of Richmond Lake. Managers can directly influence the water level in the main Richmond Lake to the south. Flood control. During periods of heavy rain and snow melt, the dam can be adjusted to slow the release of water downstream to help mitigate potential flooding around Richmond Lake and further downstream along Richmond Lake's outlets, which eventually flows into the Jim River. Water quality. Managing the rate of flow can sometimes help with water quality. A controlled release can prevent large surges of nutrient-rich water and sediment from flushing into the main lake. Recreation. By helping to maintain a more stable water level in Richmond Lake, the dam supports the recreational use, boating, fishing, property values that are important to the area. Fish and wildlife. Stable water flows are beneficial to maintaining healthy shoreline habitat and fish spawning and aquatic vegetation. So, and in this report, it says that the primary function, the water structure, often called the regulating dam, designed to manage water levels in the chain of lakes north of Richmond Lake, controlling water flow into Richmond Lake itself.
Can I ask who published that? Who's,
Got it off the internet.
can we get copies of that?
Yeah, I'll leave you a copy. I've got all kinds of things I can leave you a
Appreciate it.
copy of. But the bottom line, what I'm asking for today is for whoever is in charge, I don't know if it's the county commissioners, if it's Brock, someone to have a meeting with, or look into the legal documents when that was built as to who's in control to regulating water flow.
Okay,
Pretty simple.
I think that's a fair question. You don't have any ownership or stake in that particular structure or its management. Just for clarification, if you can trust AI, it says that Richmond Lake has a maximum capacity of 19,800 acre feet and a normal, and I hate the use of that word in this context, of 11,500. I'm a huge advocate of there's no such thing as normal when it comes to these kinds of things. There's an average and a median, and then there's what happens today. But it's very interesting. The water board was disbanded for good reason. I don't know that we consciously, when I was involved, understood that this was a responsibility that was put on the water board, but we used to have to try and settle disputes with landowners over water, and we determined, along with several other counties around the state, that we have neither the expertise or the authority to be able to make any judgments on that other than provide an opinion, which is quickly and easily, if it's disputed, goes to civil court. And so that was part and parcel of the reason that that was disbanded at the time. And I think it's a fair question that we need to research who is control, and that's part of the issue when you take and put in structures that give you control. Everyone expects you to use it to your advantage, and everybody has different perspectives on what is the appropriate advantage of that. And filling that back up, I think, is going to be an important consideration for us going forward.
They say this is the choke point to all the watershed coming into Richmond
And I
Lake.
expect that we will take that very seriously and do some research to work out on that today, and I appreciate your being here. Given that, with its due respect, we need to talk about the inconvenience of detours. We have a plan, not necessarily a perfect plan or totally set in stone, but the clock's ticking. It's going to happen here real shortly. It's unusual because most projects, whenever we deal, and we deal with it pretty frequently, with state and federal projects, and we got another one coming up here in a year or 2 years with 6th Avenue. We've had it before when we're using federal funding for highway projects, and your structure just happens to have one of our county roads, which is significant for obvious reasons that you have pointed out to people with significant interest as well as tax base, which the school appreciates more than we do, probably. But, given that, our responsibility is to address that, because when we're working with the state through DOT funding and the rest of that stuff, they have funds set aside specifically for detour routes and those kinds of things, and that's built into the project. This does not. This project is designed to address the integrity issues of the structure and the spillway. And so you talked about, which, was an important conversation, what do the local people have for skin in the game? And, we are continuing to figure out the dynamics of the timing as well as the options and opportunities, because we're likely going to be relying on some of our township resources for access for the folks in and out of there. It's going to be an inconvenience, and it's going to be an expense, and we're going to have to continue to be flexible with how, we participate in that to make sure that people have access to your property as appropriately as possible to do that. And so in conjunction, appreciating the fact that you're here, being as transparent as possible and continue to do that, on a one-on-one basis, as well as, scheduling your time with meetings with your other responsibilities as well. And I appreciate you bringing your concerns, because that is something that I think make a personal commitment that we're gonna research and follow up on.
Thank you.
With
You
that.
mentioned earlier about averting a catastrophe or disaster. That's all I'm trying to do is
Right, on the second phase,
avert.
my understanding, the first phase will be the curtain wall, that'll be year one. And I know it's gonna vary a little bit. Year two will be, the spillway widening and replacing the spillway and replacing the bridge, correct?
Yes,
In a nutshell.
but
yeah.
I do think that some of that
Can we
will
use
be,
in conjunction together?
Right.
Okay. My question to you is, the state is paying for the bridge, correct? The county has no money in this at all. Correct.
I think that's accurate.
And when we build a bridge, doesn't the county have, let's say, because eventually, don't get me wrong, that bridge was not slated to be redone, but it was probably 2/3 of its useful life was gone, correct?
No, about 8%.
That bridge being that old?
The bridge is only, the last time they worked on the spillway in 2001, I believe, they replaced the bridge too. That bridge has never been below about 90,
That bridge is brand new.
brand new. Yep, it was replaced, I don't know what the exact year, it's
that
2001
was-
they did.
I had 99 on my brain.
That sounds right.
It's
That might
not-
be when the spillway project, but the bridge was replaced.
I don't remember that being a total replace. I thought they just, when they're in
Stands
this.
on the bridge. Yeah.
That's when they put up the guardrails.
Yeah, and then put up the cable rail on
Well, I-
that.
Yeah, the sufficiency of the structure is fine, it's what's associated with it, that's the problem.
Well, we understand the reason why we're replacing it is, well, don't get me wrong, it's an integral part compared to Mina, compared to Elm. That's the problem, it's an integral part of it. You can't really work around it if you're gonna widen the spillway, because my understanding, they're gonna widen the spillway approximately 25%. I think I'm right.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, so it's just not a matter of putting another section because they have to tear out the spillway underneath the bridge. Yeah, I guess my comeback to that is, I was hoping it'd be a little bit more than that, is the county is getting a bridge out of it that they don't have to worry about. And I didn't realize, to be honest, I walked underneath it, I thought they just, they fixed a few things, but the basic structure, I didn't realize it was completely replaced. I must have been gone that year.
Well, anything that had sufficiency issues.
Mr. Russell, do you have a comment? I'm sorry, you've been trying to...
No, I would
word
just
in that.
say I agree with Charlie, and somebody does need to control the dam north, somebody should be in charge of that, like any other.
Very least, find out.
But I also agree with him, I don't think that's really gonna affect the level of the lake when we start to fill it back up, because there's not a ton of water there, but from an oxygenation standpoint and stuff like that, somebody needs to be in control of it.
With or without the dam, it should be addressed.
Yeah, and I just don't think that's the end-all, be-all to fill the lake up faster. We still need a large event, we need a lot of rain, we need a lot of snow with or without.
It will not happen
Yeah,
without those
right.
events.
And just with quick numbers here, the acres and mean depth of Richmond Lake, and then you said 440 cubic acre feet?
No.
For that?
Eight,
For that
So that-
body of
it's
water?
basically 441 acres a foot deep.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
And Richmond Lake is 6,584 acre feet per cubic, the same calculation. So apples to apples, we're talking 6584 with a mean depth of 8
Less than
feet.
10%, yeah.
Which is, so it's less than 10%. But
But
anyway,
it's still-
just quick math. But yeah, I think.
We're gonna need the help when we need it.
Yeah, and either way, we don't know that this is a legal issue yet. It might be a phone call to Bill Welk. And he says, yeah, I don't care, I'll write up a contract and you guys can go run the dam.
I
We
would
don't-
think-
We don't know.
I would think there's-
I haven't, but, you know, it could be, we don't need to necessarily make it a legal issue at this point.
I would think
maybe.
there's already a legal contract.
There might, and
When
there
they
might
build
be.
it, I would think.
Someone's already been given the jurisdiction, we need to figure out who that is.
Obviously, we had it at one point, and we,
I was gonna ask a question. Do we have any, this could be for anybody, do we know on intake into the dam, does more water come in from the lake that goes straight north?
No.
Or the one from the
Northwest.
northwest? From
Northwest.
McPherson County?
Yeah, the one from the north, there's very little, and also too, the unique thing about comparing like Mina to Richmond, the watershed of Mina is twice of Richmond.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's what I assumed, that the watershed from the northwest into McPherson County would be more. I just didn't know, because I knew that there
And
is.
the dividing line, once you get up to
Some that comes from the
Willow
north.
Dam, you know, people think, if you look at a map, it's like, oh, that flows into Richmond. No, that flows into the Elm, which flows,
Will,
That way.
yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm just looking at this map back here, and I've looked at it, I mean, this is what I look at during commission meetings, is
Yep.
maps back here. But if you look at that north leg, I mean, it's really not that far from the north side of Richmond to Willow. I mean, Willow is straight north of there, so you know that watershed is going into the Elm versus into
yeah.
Richmond, so.
And when we do have a significant snow event, we get some from the north. But the vast majority comes from the.
And I know there's a good amount that comes from the
Hills.
north,
Yeah.
but yet
The
Leola Hills
Yeah.
would have more,
Yep.
And the old.
more elevation and more
No
watershed.
rain.
And when Charlotte and I flew up there, it's just not the concern of that dam. I also, there's a lot of, I think the city of Leola basically is where the watershed starts. And I don't understand enough, but there's a lot of holding ponds and, you know, there's things that I didn't really look at very that much until we flew over it yesterday. There are a lot of substantial stock dams and holding ponds from Hutterite colonies. Who regulates all those things too? That's another thing that, the state regulates all that. Just want to make sure that, because that was the unique thing that people don't remember, and I think approximately 25 years ago, there was a grant, and the county was involved in it, where there's significant expenditures that was going up around Richmond Lake for people that had cattle, for fencing, for drainage going into the lake, riprap on the state land. I mean, it was millions of dollars.
That's 2002.
Thank you. And it's beautiful. I mean, what they did is phenomenal. And Mike, I talked to you a few years ago, you know, I would like to see, and that's something I'll talk to the board about too, is even approaching James River on the land of that is Edwards Preserve, is trying to get maybe some funding for that to go in there while the lake is going to be low for the next few years. Look at going in there and probably putting some rock along, I think it's 1,800 feet if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that too. And see if there's any money available through James River watershed. We all pay taxes, as part it's on our tax. We've never asked for anything, and that's who we would contact, correct?
Yes. Now, in fairness, and I appreciate you bringing that up, James River participates in a lot of these kinds of projects on a minor basis towards the funding of a project, makes
Okay.
contributions, and usually works with individual landowners on dam projects and things like that, and with lake associations that are putting in the majority of the finances to do those projects. But James River is happy to help, being a contributing factor to some of those, but it doesn't go in and just do a whole project.
Neil Bellica lives right out there.
Yep.
I'm hoping we can, you know, I'm looking for any help that I can get, but I'm going,
Correct.
I'm excited about this project. I just went through rip-rapping mine 8 years ago, and the expense is expensive when you have water in the lake.
Yep.
If you took that water out of the lake, it'd probably be half that.
Correct.
And you get a much better job. Now I get to go in there and pick up hundreds of large rocks that are not in the right spot, and it'll be a lot easier.
Yep.
So, to me,
And I know there's fingers that have silted in and the rest of that stuff, and I've
Oh,
had
yeah,
conversations,
yeah.
so those, you
Yep.
know, who's gonna do that? And I go, you're gonna have to do that if you're
And I've
gonna.
looked where people have done it, where Roger Gray and Dr. Bigler have gone in, phenomenal, but the expense, when the lake is high,
Yep.
is astronomical. You bring the lake down, that goes away.
So there will be a narrow window of opportunity.
Correct. And I want that to be, I'm going to be at the board meeting, I'm going to be, I'm retired now, so I will be a little bit more vocal about making sure things are going in the right direction. I'm not afraid to call anybody anymore because I don't have one business, so I can actually call them.
I'm retired too, so look
But
at
I am, I'm excited. I appreciate Julie, I appreciate Carl, I appreciate what you guys have done. I was on the city council for 12 years. I understand bureaucracy and what you have to go through, but it's here. Now, since it's here, I just want to expedite as fast as we possibly can, keep their butt to the fire, and have a project that we can be, proud of.
If I could offer just quick on the filling up of it, just as an anecdotal opposite twist to that, because last year started out as a very dry year. Well, scared an awful lot of people, both in production ag and the rest of that stuff, and we got a significant amount of water, and even more north and east of us. I was just in Marshall County last week for their drainage board meeting, by invitation, and but a contrast to that, without specific information, was what happened with Elm Lake several years ago, because that structure had been there for decades without any issues, and we had a very localized, intense event in that small watershed there that destroyed the auxiliary spillway there, because, and pretty much nobody else except almost immediately over the top of that small watershed. So it can happen both ways.
And people don't realize, because my cousin lives up there, and I went up there after that, how close we were to losing that dam.
Yeah.
The destruction, not just on the emergency spillway, the main spillway, they lost hundreds of thousands of yards of dirt. And
so that's the opposite of, not
Correct.
getting enough precipitation to fill in, because what was it, 20 years ago, give or take? That the Missouri River was down, and the dam at Pier, the watershed behind that, there was projections it was gonna take decades to fill that back up, and it was a year later.
And I've seen it too. That's what's nice about it. I've been in the history. I get a little more patience as I get older. Do I wish it would fill in a year? It will fill in a year if we have a large snow event and we have significant, like a 4 or 5 inch. That's what happened at Mina last. The reason why Mina is going over the dam, they had more rain than we did, but the one rain brought that lake up 3 feet.
Did it?
4th of July.
Yeah.
I was in a boat when it was raining.
Yeah, don't forget the extremes make the averages, and I know there's a lot of stock, you talk about stock dams up to the north and west, there's a lot of stock dams that are not at capacity right now.
No.
So when it does rain, when it does snow, guess what's gonna fill up first? So it's gonna take a pretty significant event to fill
I
those
was-
up and then continue on downstream.
I was surprised that the lake came up, like 6 inches from this, just from this last snow. I think we got a lot more snow than what people thought of.
There was a little moisture in it, it's heavy.
Yeah, but you're right, north of there right now, it is dry. There's lots of places along the creek, there's no water flowing at all. Stock dams are down. And I look at stock dams also too as a buffer. But it comes back to, what's there, and I agree with Charlie. We should have control of some, and I think it's Delta Waterfall originally was the instigator of that dam.
They were part of it.
Yeah. So I think there's legal things. It's just a matter of finding who has.
The argument got it permitted.
What's that?
The argument got it permitted.
Correct, but the owner that's there is not here a lot. And I just want to make sure, that if somebody has the right from the state or the county to go in there and regulate that without getting in trouble.
Senator Perry, question?
Not really a question, just, the important thing is transparency, and I think that when Charlie said that, and when Todd said that, and when Mike has all said the same thing, we're very fortunate that we have Commissioner Brock Greenfield here, because that's the main purpose of his visit, is he is here to listen to the needs of the people, and what's really exciting is many of those people are my constituents, and what we want to do is make our constituents as happy as possible. And if Charlie's unhappy, we're unhappy. And what we want to do is do the right thing. We're very fortunate also to have somebody like Julie. She's kind of like a ramrod in the background. She kind of keeps track of a lot of stuff, and I think that's important. But this goes back to Ryan Bruner, who is now one of the main people with the governor, and Brock, who is one of the main people with the state of South Dakota. And you know, we have other people that are involved with the Senate and the House. It's very unusual to have the chair of the House, and that's Al, and the chair of the Senate, or the prime for the Senate, which is me, on a committee specifically for an area that's really important in this area. But we're not done. This is the beginning, and what you're asking, somebody need the feet to the fire, that statement that people say, we really need to hold our feet to the fire. And then when I say our feet, that's the Senate, that's the House, that's the Brock's area, that's the contractor. We need to hold everybody's feet to the fire. We need to do the best thing for the city of Aberdeen. I'll tell you what, if there was a 100-year flood before this thing gets built, we'd all be sitting here going, boy, I wish we would have done this before now. But we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done in time, and we'll fix all the things that need fixed. And everybody's not going to be happy. Everybody will not be happy, but we'll try to make as many happy as possible.
I'm just gonna correct you, I'm not unhappy yet. I'm trying to avoid being unhappy.
Well, good to know, Ryan.
You heard the phrase, nobody plans to fail, but they fail to plan.
Amen.
I'm trying to plan so I don't fail, or we don't fail.
Plan to succeed, right?
Let's do it up front.
Well, we
rather than
appreciate the
back end.
input. I'm not speaking for Brock, but I'll tell you what, the more we know, the better job we can do.
I've got one last question for Brock, at some
Go ahead.
point, yes or no. I asked you last fall, do we have a walkway on this new $30 million, we don't have a sidewalk?
And that's something I'm hoping, Charlie, that
I'm hoping we can just, like, as the board, we're hopefully gonna utilize some of our money to make that happen. I mean, it would need to be planned with the construction to leave the space to do it.
And I'm hoping, because I know they're bringing in dirt, and that's something there, again, that's where I would like to be hopefully involved a little bit too. Whether you like or not, I'm gonna be involved.
Welcome back.
Yeah, but, I know they're bringing a lot of dirt to bring their machinery in, to put a staging area along the road. I'm hoping we work with the contract without adding extra money, so they don't have to remove that dirt. They may be able to utilize that dirt for us, at least for a base, for a future walkway that we can go in there and we can pay for it. Then we can put in either a gravel path or an asphalt path. And I'm gonna pick on Neil Billick up from B&B. We do have a very large contractor who is a wonderful guy. That I think we could, I know the association can come up with quite a bit of money to do that, but I think, I was told when the Mina project was done, there was a lot of changes done, behind the scenes to accommodate the people of the lake without costing anything. And I just want, that's where, I want to have those conversations with, Journey, and see what we can do to modify that. And I know the construction meeting is ended this month. That'd be something I would like to see. The pre-construction meeting, is that something we could be at or not?
I don't know.
Okay. Could you check into that, or if not, directly after that, and we're getting ready to do our meeting, I don't know if you've talked to them about that. Our spring meeting is approximately around the end of April, the 1st of May, and we would like, either representative from your office and all the people I mentioned and definitely the construction person there. I have the time to sit down with the construction person. I don't know if Mr. Dede is gonna do it, or who's gonna be the construction manager of this project. I worked with them when we did Northern. I worked with Journey for 3 years, and so I know the company. And I know some of the people there too.
As I mentioned before, you know, when we're working with federal funding for DOT projects and things like that, they have special allocations as part of their ongoing funding for walkways, bike paths, detours, all the rest of that stuff. This is not that program.
Right.
This is
I would
school and
think
public
that-
lands, getting special appropriations, both fed and state, as well as local effort to address the issue with the structure.
Correct, and we do that. I've known that. It's
Yep.
just that.
So it's
I do
fair
know
game, but
that-
it's a different critter.
But I know there's ways you can do it, you know, like I said, I know they're gonna be bringing dirt in, to bring this machine in, to drill down, they have to widen an area.
Yeah.
So if the dirt is there, hopefully they can leave the dirt, but I think they need to know that up front. And then we can go in there as the association and do what we need to do, and if we look for other funding, that's, you know, that's.
Yeah, because that's one of the things the contractor's gonna be working with. It's like, okay, well, are we gonna stage things? What are we gonna do with material? The rest of those kinds of things, how are we gonna disposition it, and the rest of that. But their commitment to the scope of the responsibility of the contract is what it is.
Sure.
And then if you can help participate with them, that's mutually beneficial. I think those are conversations that the association can, could, and should have.
I'm hoping that works, because I said, when I talked to the people at Mina, whoever they did that, I think the same company did, Mina did Elm Lake. They were wonderful to work with, and they were very flexible. And I'm hoping it works out with us.
I guarantee the landowner on the east side of that, because we don't own the land east of the bridge, the landowner east of the dam will be cooperative. Maybe we'd have to put his name on the sidewalk as a, you know, contributor, but he's very lake friendly. He's a farmer, and
that's a good thing.
All you need to do is call and talk to him a little bit.
Okay.
And we're not looking to widen the road, we're not looking, because I know they'll have to take, they're basically, that's part of the contract, is replacing that part of the road over the dam. I'm not looking to alter that.
The
All I'm
substructure
looking
for it.
is, hopefully, the soil that they're bringing in, they can keep that there alongside that at some point, or modify it somewhat, at, you know, hopefully at our expense, that we can work with them. Because I think that's our, you know, safety is an issue on that bridge. But
Well, I trust if you can help them disposition material and still allow them to be able to
yeah,
fulfill the
it's a
contract.
win-win. You know,
You'll be in
I've
good
worked
shape.
with other companies where we've done similar things like that, where we've used fill, and instead of, well, the city has done it. Instead of moving it again, we utilize it on a different job. So this is kind of the same situation. It's expensive to move dirt again.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Do you want to have a brief conversation about what we anticipate we're gonna be doing about an alternate route and resurfacing it when we get to that point?
Jesus.
Good morning. You're late. But you've been here.
No, luckily Lincoln Township has stepped up, and we don't know exactly what the final disposition of the road will be. I'm thinking the east part of it will probably end up with a blotter. It's the easiest thing to put in there and then get rid of. The problem is anything we do in there, you either gotta put it back to gravel when we're done, or hand somebody a big red herring to take care of, you know. Lincoln Township wants no part of it, 'cause they've already had a good experience with their paved road out there past the park. So it's gonna be, now, that's the other thing, everyone's acting like you have to drive on the detour. You can go around the west side of the lake if you want, you can go up to Road 9 if you want. But 130th meets all the criteria for a county road. I know someone sent out the set of specs for a DOT.
127.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I have 130th on that. I got everybody's attention though, I saw the
They're paying attention.
The highway department does not use those numbers unless there's an emergency. We're using the county road numbers, so we're the one group that those aren't automatic, but, we do a little work on it. I visited, had a couple conversations, and I will have a formal meeting with Lincoln Township about how we're gonna change a couple of the intersections, traffic control at them. But, outside of that, that's not, I mean, the west mile probably gonna need a little love, but, it should be fine. I mean, this is, the reason that I'm being adamant about using that road is because this will be the 4th time that we've needed a detour out there. And no matter where I put the detour, the majority of the people would go in on 127. Sometimes they go in 1 mile and then go south back to 14, depending on why it was closed. But, so it's not like you have to drive on it. If you wanna drive the 8 extra miles and go around the west side of the lake, or go up to 9, or whatever.
Do you
So-
still have a mile and a quarter of gravel going the west side around?
Yep, yep. And,
But there will be a designated detour, and we are communicating with the township and cooperative and going to do whatever it takes to make sure that it's safe and passable
Oh, yeah.
to the extent we can, no different than we do with our own system.
Well, back to the skin in the game, now poor Lincoln Township has skin in the game whether they want it or not, because they're gonna have that traffic coming by there. We did a couple traffic counts up there, and I don't know what the, maybe you guys know the number of houses that are, you know, north side of the lake and east side of the lake, so basically, you know, but the traffic counts we did ran about
75 to 100, I think.
75 to 100,
Yeah.
that's what I, it's like, 150 to 200 depending on the day. I gotta be honest, I don't remember if we did them in the summer, or I doubt it was in the dead of winter when we did it. And that was mostly just to get a handle on how many cars we'd be talking about that would come that way and be obstructed. But I mean, we got a lot worse roads that we put traffic on, and I know that's a hell of a standard. But I don't foresee it being a problem, and we'll make it. It will be babysitting it. Poor Josh Matthews is gonna be so sick of that 4 miles by the time the project's done.
Did you say you're planning on watering it?
Well, the east end of it for sure.
Okay.
And-
Yeah, I mean, if you say blotter to the people out there, at least even partially, you will probably be invited to, maybe not dinner, but you might be invited for a beer.
I'm not sure I would come anyway. No, but
Thanks
that's...
for the invite.
And to be honest, Todd, it's I'm trying to mitigate
Right.
another problem with the Lincoln Township folks that
Yeah.
live on there, but,
And I'd like to put asphalt on it, but I don't have an extra $4 million or $5 million.
neither do
to
we.
that. Yeah.
You know, and this is gonna sound really out of whack with everything else, but honestly, when I look at that, and if you were thinking about it, it'd be about 800,000 to do those 4 miles, okay? I could actually, if we had a long-term plan for how we were gonna pay for the upkeep of that, I wouldn't be 100% against it. The problem is, it would be the first new asphalt, I mean, other than blotter and the really
Yeah.
crappy blotter job that you guys got out there, the new road around Delbert Lowe's farm there on 12W and the frontage road, that's all the asphalt we've ever added since I've been around, you know. So, but the problem is, if we say, hey, your township, well, now they got about a frickin' $150,000 bill in 5 years, or else you just let it go to crap again. But we are being very aware there'll be, you know, I'm not a big fan of dust proofing. I would prefer to shoot road oil, just make it black, and then it look a lot, sometimes it might look like a DOT, or like a DOT,
Temporary detour.
what am I trying to say, temporary surfacing that they do on a DOT job. Might be something like that, but,
Just gotta make sure we get a good base under it.
yep, and the east, there, like I said, the west end of that, there's a mile or so in there that looks a little squishy, but as you get over to the east, I think it's a little better. And we'll have a normal contract with the township, they're not gonna get stuck on the hook for anything, and surprisingly, I thought they would be more, concerned about it, but for the most part, they're all right. I don't know if Madsen's listening, I think he lives out there, so.
Would it be necessary to widen that road at all, like if there's trucks coming and going, meeting, or do you think it's sufficient? the way it is?
Legally, it's sufficient.
Okay.
I know that's a hell of an answer too.
Yeah.
But, like I said, we're gonna be monitoring it more than we do most normal, or most other ones.
Mhm.
And that west end, you know, we could put a shoulder out there, that would give you a fighting chance, but I didn't wanna get into a whole bunch of regrading and stuff if we don't have to, you know? We could throw some more material out there and, you know, you have to slide over, it might work for a minute.
Limit, and like to say this, but heavy trucks on that?
Possibly, you know, now again, we'll just have to decide, okay, this is what we're gonna allow and this is what we're not, and you just make that legal designation on it. You know, there's some, this is always, Scott and I were just talking about this on another bridge project. It's hard anymore, you know, it used to be take it out of the field and go to the elevator, so you know you're coming out of here and going to the road, but like the guys that are north of Richmond, like Burbus's and them, off the top of my head, I don't know if they just go straight east over where they take their stuff, or who's even farming that anymore, to know how big of a deal that is for those guys, you know, to say you can't go in here, you can go north. Legally, they can go around the lake, but I don't exactly want a bunch of harvest traffic going on West Shore either, you know?
Yeah, that road wouldn't last for...
No, about 12 seconds,
Yeah.
so, but, I mean, unless, if there was a group in there, depending on which way they're going with their harvest, and they could pull up to 9 and not have it be a huge inconvenience.
That's just a thought I had, I mean, if it doesn't inconvenience people a lot, I think there again, there's people, it's gonna inconvenience a lot of people anyway.
Yeah.
But if it
Yep.
makes that road maintain a little bit easier to drive on, and, we're taking care of 3/4 of the people over here, and we're
Right.
still affecting, and it's only, the worst time is the spring and the fall, so it's not...
Yeah, true, at least it'll be concentrated.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I don't like to push people out. I don't farm up by that area, so I don't know how that would affect me. If it's a mile, I think people are gonna say, yep, I can go up on another mile, or even 2 miles and go around this. I don't have a problem. If I would go 9 miles out of my way, yeah, that's a problem.
I tell you what, let me talk with the township again and feel them out for that. I'm not opposed to that. Obviously, that makes our job easier, because the road should last longer, right, if you're doing that. And the other point is, the detour isn't for, oh my God, these guys can't harvest now. The detour was for the folks on the north side of the lake. You know what I mean?
can't
So,
go across.
you can make some arguments for that.
Well, and the tricky part you're gonna have is just getting the crop off the field at the time, you know, for a adjacent field.
Right.
So, but it's, hopefully there's no one using it as a through highway necessarily to get from point A to point B.
Right.
But I mean, if you're harvesting right off of 127, that'd be pretty understanding, that's kind of your only way to get it out.
And that's,
And hopefully it's one season.
If you could
All right,
limit it
I'm gonna
the rest
interrupt
of
for
the
just
year.
a minute, we have a caller that has a question. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Dwayne. Dirk, just a couple questions. And there are 12 people, including myself, that live on that 1 mile of 127. Did I miss part of the conversation? Would there be any spring limits applied to that first mile? Since
Yeah.
it's gonna be,
Okay, just to pitch from the hip, Scott, I would say yes. However, we're getting into a pretty hybrid situation with the spring load limit laws, and the county's got a township road with a detour on it. I'd have to look into it. I would be leaning towards restricting it, but again, like I said, I gotta visit with the township again and see how big of a deal it is. I'll tell you, it'll come apart in a big hurry if we don't restrict it.
And that can make them...
well, I would have some big concerns with that for obvious reasons, that I've got trucks coming in and out of my place.
How many are you
The
talking?
second thing would be whether or not, the speed limit would stay, I believe part of it at least is posted at 45. Any changes to that, or re-signing it?
There'll be a discussion about that too. I just finally kinda got the framework of it worked out the other day with, Shawneman. And we're gonna have more discussions. I mean, those are all viable questions, and they're nothing that's set in stone. So, I mean, are you saying it should be lower, I'm assuming?
There's kids that live along there, and, so the neighbors that I've talked to, the concern, of course, is with speed of people using it as a throughway. It's always been kind of a racetrack from the time they turn west off of the highway. I don't know if anybody pays attention really to how it's signed currently, but the dust was the number one concern. Sounds like you're taking care of that. I would say the safety for their children, the speed limit would be the second.
10-4.
All right, anyone else? Julie, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Julie Johnson, just Thank you for allowing this conversation today, and thanks for everybody who's here. I just had a couple of thoughts about other resources that you may be able to bring to the table on some of these topics. One, the issue of buffer zones or riparian areas came up, or that's how I interpreted it. The state did pass some legislation that allows $8 million more for riparian buffer zones. I don't know if that's helpful in this case, and I don't know how the state is rolling that out, but it might be worthwhile for us to reach out to the people doing that, implementing all of that. The other thing that I noticed also is I believe the state's trail grants, both DOT and Game Fish and Parks, are open for eligibility for application right now, if that is of any interest in the topics that you have mentioned here. Let's see. There's something else. Well, anyway, if that comes up, I'll, while you're still convening, I'll raise the topic. Thanks for being here. Oh, the state does have a water rights expert that I've gotten to work with on the Webb and Winds project, and that might be a good resource. Their office might have some of the history of some of this, and we can make that connection for you.
What office would that be?
It's called the Division of Water Rights and the Department of Ag and Natural Resources. Yeah, anyway, I'll help you, and you know them, you know them.
Is the individual you're talking
Mark
about?
Meyer.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Start with Mark Meyer, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Anyone else have any questions for Brock? I think the big takeaway from today is this is going to be the size and the scope of this project is probably bigger than we've ever encountered. It's going to take a real collaborative effort on behalf of the township, the Richmond Lake Association, the county, the state, school and public lands. I mean, there's going to take a lot of coordination, and I think transparency and communication are going to be the key to keeping complaints and concerns to a minimum. So, I mean, we are the governing body within the county that probably is the most logical to house and to hold a public meeting. So I appreciate everybody and your input today. And as we move forward, if we have occasion to answer some more questions or if big concerns come up, our door is open so that we can have another meeting and get the facts out there and get the answers. We will work on figuring out who exactly has the jurisdiction over that dam and who rightfully is the one to make the call on the releases or the holding back. So we've got our homework cut out for us, but we as a county will do whatever we possibly can to keep the locals happy out there. We know it's a major inconvenience for not only the residents of the lake, but those that enjoy the lake as a destination throughout the summer. So it'll take a little extra patience and understanding on everyone's part, but we'll get through this, and at the end of the day, we'll have a damn nice dam. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your keen interest, the people who've shown up today, the people who've been in contact with us throughout. You know, I'm a land guy. That's the nature of my job, is to provide monies for the K-12 system, among others, and the dams were a gift from the federal government after the WPA projects were undertaken and completed. And so Watertown had the stadium and the city got that. We got 97 dams, GF&P got 80. I think the Civic Arena here in town was a WPA project. And those were all gifted to local entities as opposed to them remaining under the federal government. I'm perfectly willing to entertain, to bring forth legislation. If somebody has a good landing spot for these, maybe it's just GF&P, but I say that in jest. This has been a huge undertaking. It's really outside the mission of our office, yet it's a huge component of our responsibility. You know, we have low hazard dams and medium hazard dams. This is a high hazard dam, like I said, with 3.7 billion gallons, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the right number. bearing down on that, you know, trying to press its way to Aberdeen, and so it's hugely important that we get it done. And I've tried, you know, I appreciate the focus. The word transparency's been brought up a number of times, and we'll do our level best to continue. I will say this, and I maybe shouldn't go down this road, but when you're in a public office and somebody says, well, we may seek an injunction to stave off this process for a time, at that point, the lines of communication tend to break down. I hope that we're, you know, well beyond that now, and we can just continue this ongoing dialogue. I've had conversations with some of the people who were concerned about the project, and we're looking at that as an option. And I do think we're beyond that. And, you know, there are a whole lot of, the number of people with a keen interest in this dam, it's expansive. Our responsibility is to stave off that catastrophic event for the downstream residents. However, that's not to minimize the lake population's interest either. I would love to have been able to tell you, yes, we're going to be able to do some of those nice elements, add the, you know, the walking path, the lighted biking and walking path. To that point, I did reach out. I haven't heard back, but I did reach out to Journey, and I said, if you have any cost containment ideas, I'd be interested in hearing those and visiting with you and the engineers about what you would bring to the table. So, but I also appreciate Todd's statements about trying to work through that process and take the bull by the horns and see that if that's possible and that the locals could have some buy-in on that front, that they'd be perhaps willing to take that on. I would say it's not a wholly done deal. You know, if Journey was to say, yeah, we can identify $2 million worth of savings, that'd be a conversation that we could have. I do think that the legislature would say, why don't you just revert the $2 million as opposed to spending it on something else? But you know, I'm rambling at this point, I recognize, but this has been a huge part of my time in that office. I have a lot of responsibilities, but this one, you know, has been at the top of the priority list. So thank you for having me here today, and to the extent that I can loop in some of the other people from the state for future discussions. Frankly, I hadn't really ever had a conversation with Ms. Waters from the Office of the State Engineer until very recently. It had always been another gentleman within that office, but she stepped up and really contributed, and she's been a great resource. So I think she'll be willing to continue on in helping to facilitate the communications and try to get answers. My best guess, incidentally, and I can't tell you that I'm speaking with great authority on this, but Dwayne, you've been a legislator, you know how things work, and when you have jurisdictional issues, my best guess is that when the board was disbanded several years ago, that it remained a function of the county and it didn't default to the state as it relates to the management of the waters up north. But if you find that you're not able to get answers and to walk the line and facilitate a change to the management, let me know and I'll get you in touch with the right people.
Okay, appreciate that.
All right, thank you all.
All right,
Appreciate your
Commissioner
attention to this
Greenfield,
issue.
we appreciate you coming and answering the questions, providing us with the latest that you have, and on behalf of the Brown County and Richmond Lake residents, we appreciate your efforts and the efforts of the legislators and everybody that's played a part in making this happen. So,
And it goes both ways. You folks have been really delightful to work with. I realize there are always gonna be concerns, but, we've tried to navigate those waters.
Right.
And, I think by and large, we've done a pretty good job of that. And it's, again, I've mentioned it before, the patience and the resolve to see this thing through, knowing that it has to get done. Just really, I can't say enough about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you everyone for attending today and all your input. We'll be in touch.
I think I'll,
Take a 2-minute break.
Yep, we'll take a 2-minute break here and then we'll carry on.
Thanks for bringing that up, Charlie. Morning.
Then we give them a
Microphone.
Thanks for being here, Charlie.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get that figured out. Get that figured out.
God, we don't want it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
No brainer.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, really? The phone line keeps cutting in and out.
I'll work with Daryl Cummings.
Yeah.
And get you an answer.
Yeah.
Because I know I just run that line.
I thought sometimes if there's no one in here, there's no impact on their flagging up.
Oh, yeah, so all those.
I did see a bunch, yeah, I just
Those players that have like
Right.
a interesting name. That's all the people that are watching. And then, like I said, it's recorded and, published.
Being recorded?
Oh, yeah, we're recorded and everything, so, yeah. It'll be like 3 days, give or take, maybe soon.
It'll be in the cloud soon.
Yeah, it'll be on.
How much longer are you guys meeting?
That was only the first agenda item, so we'll be here for a while.
Yeah, I think so.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah,
It's
well,
good to get to Dickinson.
I'm just trying to actually help. There's no animosity, I'm trying to save a problem, not make a problem.
You're right, though, as far as the oxygenation of the lake and things like that. If that was the purpose of that dam, there's been a lot of times where we've had fish killed.
So where's our management, Game Fish and Park? Aren't they checking the lakes on a regular basis, like even weekly, and when the oxygenation goes down? Why aren't they going up there racing water?
I think they wait till fish die.
Yeah, well, that's a great time to fix the problem.
That's when they figure out they have a problem.
Better when they're all dead, but they're better than when they're all dead.
That's exactly why I'm bringing this to everybody's attention right now, that exact statement right there. After the fish are dead, then what do you do?
We got the document from our attorney Ross from 1996, he sent it to us already, so.
96, on the...
I have it right now.
Yeah, he sent us an email while we were discussing it.
Okay, good.
So we can.
You guys can address what you're talking about.
You bet.
I need to be here for anything else, or do you want me to leave the copies?
You're welcome to stay if you'd like. We got this.
I'll leave you a copy of the information that I brought in. I'll just kind of background the document, what I'm talking about.
Charlie?
If you wanna go in and have Stephanie, she can make copies of all of it, and then you can take it all back.
We'll wait for Mike to get back here and then we'll start in again.
Somebody start the Jeopardy song, so he
Yeah.
walks in, we'll have him. Oh, there he is.
There he is. Never mind.
Go ahead without me.
No. All right, next on the agenda, Dave Munson, Sheriff, to talk about a couple of contracts. Morning, Dave.
Morning. The first one's pretty simple, straightforward. Davidson County, we are still, unfortunately, still searching for other counties to help us relieve the pressure in the jail. Davidson County, they wanted a contract so that we knew what we were needing from them, and they knew what we were gonna give them. So, this is just a standard contract. We've gone through it, there's really nothing unusual on this one. But this is really, we're stretching our wings, trying to figure out somebody to help us out. And Edmonds County is behind, I don't know when they're gonna open, that's not helping us any, and we're just in a crunch. So, that's pretty simple, unless there's questions from you guys.
Move.
Second. Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. Just second here.
Dave, did you notice it says 2,500 on that 26?
On which one?
On the contract.
Dating.
On the last page?
First day of January 2025 through
Oh,
December
that's the way they said
2025.
it, so we can
Update that to
We'll just
26.
update. Yes.
Make that part of my motion.
Okay. We have motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, jail medical contract.
This is the big one that I really wanted to talk about more than anything today. This has been in the works for about 5 years. Been back and forth trying to find alternatives to help our nurse out, to try to cover 24 hours a day, and it's just been a nightmare is what it's been. I've been through a lot of different programs, a lot of different companies, some of which would do it just fine, but it would probably break our bank. Extremely, extremely expensive. Well, while this was in the process, I'll back up a little bit, was able to get the health care through Modern Day Health through telehealth. We did that a couple years ago now, 2 years now, the telehealth part. So once we got that piece in place, just recently we got MARS put in place. It's a EMAR, it's an electronic MAR system, so that when a doctor actually prescribes a medication, it gets sent directly to the pharmacy, which is sent to our computer, so it's all electronic, there are no mistakes, or cut down on mistakes, because it's all sent through the system right away. We've been up and running with that for a couple months now. And the third piece is this one, and this has been going on a while. I've had Ross look through it. It's been back and forth between Modern Day Health. Modern Day Health, since they already do our telehealth, they gave us a really good deal. This will help us and the jail and the county more than anybody really realizes, because whenever our nurse is sick, gone, on vacation, or may take a leave of absence of some sort, these guys will come in and take that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most of those answering the phones are nurse practitioners, most of them. So they trade that around, and it's a great contract for the county in and of itself, and our people will be able to utilize it anytime they want. So that's why I wanted to make sure that you understood how big a deal this is. I can't stress how important this contract, I've been waiting for it so long. Ross even found a couple other places, but the amounts were significantly higher. And since they're working together with their original contract, it works hand in hand. So that's why I wanted to come and explain it.
Okay. Any questions of Dave on the Modern Day Health contract?
So they will physically come in when our jail nurse is out?
No.
They would
All will be telemed. Yep. They will be answering the phone call from different places in the state. Whoever's on call, that's how they can make this work. And
They have a network of providers.
Yes.
In multiple locations.
From here through Sioux Falls and in between they do, so they just take their turns, and we pay per bed per month is all we pay. A lot of them, they go by ADP. This is what our maximum is per bed per month. We know what it is, we pay it every month. And this contract, we pay it at the beginning, ahead of the month, just so you're aware. And then we use that month up and we do it all over again. We're not behind, we're actually ahead.
Simply billed in advance instead of arrears.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions about this?
No, thank you for your legwork on getting that done.
Yeah, this has been a long time in coming, and a really big leap forward for the jail.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Denner. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for being patient.
You bet.
Next up, Gene Letsky, Director of Equalization, with his annual conference. Morning, Gene.
Morning.
Morning, Gene.
Morning. Okay. Start with SDCL. 10/3/14, the Director of Equalization shall meet with the County Commission at the office of the County Commissioners on the first meeting of April for conference in reference to the performance of the Director's duties. So, there you go. So I'm here.
Because you have to be.
Because I have to be. County, 2026 equalization's been really relatively quiet, actually really quite quiet. County and consolidated boards both start next Tuesday. We'll start county in the morning, consolidated in the afternoon. We'll organize both days. County will take care of the exemptions, senior freezes, like we always do there. I have a few stipulations we'll go through on. I have 7 stipulations we'll take care of Tuesday right away at county board. Consolidated board will meet in the afternoon, organize again. And again, had been really quiet. I'll have, so we have something to do on Tuesday. I do have about 7 stipulations we'll take care of on Tuesday. And then the following Tuesday, the 21st, I have currently 3 unresolved county appeals. They'll give them an opportunity to come in and visit with you. It gives them a couple weeks to, us to notify them of the date, if 21st is good for you, and kind of go from there. Afternoon, right now I have, consolidated boards, let's see, I have about 5 unresolved, or I had 5 unresolved consolidated boards we'll take care of on the 21st. Last Wednesday, I did have an additional 45 appeals show up from one property owner for consolidated boards, so I haven't really had a chance to go through and see what we have to offer, where we're at. They came in about real late in the day Wednesday. We kind of went through Thursday to kind of see where we were at. I'll get in touch with them this week to see if we can have any stipulations, or if we can get any withdrawals, or whatever. So we'll try to get those in on the 21st. If we need to, we'll go to the 28th on those, so keep that open. Both boards can meet up until the 5th of May, would be the last day we're allowed to meet. Otherwise, pretty much business as usual. Actually, like I said, it was really a quiet equalization period. Spent a lot of time just waiting for the phone to ring, and it never happened. The senior freezes, the Senate Bill 216, with the change in the criteria, we did have considerable attention or interest in that. Just talked to Patty this morning. We had 153 applications last year, 149 that we qualified and uploaded. We upped to 239 applications this year, so additional 86 applications with the new criteria. So we got the word out. Looks like some people at least took advantage of it and got their stuff in. So
sure.
Otherwise, that's kind of all I have. Kind of organize equalization. It should go pretty fast. Like I said, we'll see how we can get those consolidated squared away and worked on a little bit here. And other than that, I guess questions or comments from you folks. It is it's supposed to be in reference to the performance, so I guess your opportunity to fire me if you need to.
No. Right before equalization, we ain't doing that. All right. Well, thanks, Eugene. You bet. We'll see how everything goes here in the next couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
Thanks to you and your team for your efforts. So.
And I have a really good team. They do a really good job. Actually, they know a whole lot more about a lot of this stuff than I do. So
they make you look good.
Makes me look good. They do a good job of that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks.
Next up, approve and authorize chairman to sign the grant agreement for weed and pest to spray yellow toad flax.
Second.
Motion by Dinger, second by Weiss. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Consent calendar, Lynn.
Approval of the general meeting of March 31st.
Move. Second.
Motion by Denner, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims and payroll.
Move. Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Second. Motion by Gage, second by Denner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request?
Motion by Dinger, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Landfill tonnage report for March.
Move.
Motion by Denner,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business come before the Brown County Commission? We need to go into exec to discuss contracts. Any legal, Ross, is he still out there?
Yes, he is.
Okay, any legal, Ross?
Contract?
Okay.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
You got nothing else to do?
All right, we are back in session, out of exec with no action as a result. Is there anything else we need to deal with today?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Weiss.
Second.
Second by Denner to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.